Beat Saber is the kind of game you can pick up and play for hours, day after day, week after week, and lately I've been wondering why. Why is it so much fun to violently swing my arms around so I can cut virtual notes with my virtual lightsabers to the beat of a song that, for the purpose of completing this half-baked joke, could also technically be considered virtual? Well, I decided to find out. Hello everyone, my name is Skit, and welcome to my first video since my break. I hope I didn't keep you all waiting too long. Oh damn. I've been wanting to talk about Beat Saber ever since I got my hands on my very own copy of it. This game quickly became my new favourite. Sorry, Celeste, I guess I would just rather break my wrist than my fingers. Beat Saber is packed with some really great game design. There's a lot in this game I could rave about, from the presentation to the immersion. Hell, even the options menu is worth talking about. But I want this video to actually release to you guys sometime, so rather than talk about everything Beat Saber has to offer, I figured I'd just tell you guys one small piece and let you discover the rest by yourself. There's a link in the description to the Steam page, but you will need a VR headset to play, so if you don't have one, just tell your parents you got scammed, okay? I wanted to focus on just one small aspect of the game. The notes. These may look simple at a glance, but the team at Beat Games has actually made an incredibly deep and strong mechanic that packs a lot more of a punch than you may think at first. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, but what actually gives a mechanic depth? Well, put simply, a mechanic with good depth is one that's easy to understand, challenging to master, and can continue to challenge the player even after they've mastered it. According to an article on Game Developer, which will be linked in the description by the way, a deep mechanic should provide both an objective to be accomplished and a skill to challenge. Let's say you're making a shooter game. Giving the player the simple task of using their one gun to shoot down enemies may sound exciting at first, but that feeling of excitement wouldn't last very long. It would get rather boring doing the same thing over and over. There's a clear objective, but nothing to make this mechanic challenge a player's skills. On a similar note, telling the player to use the correct weapons from your arsenal, but not giving them a clear target, would also make the mechanic feel shallow, as the player isn't sure what their range of weapons is for. There's a skill to be challenged, but no objective for the player to reach. However, if we put both of these in a bowl, whisk them together and fan bake at 180 degrees Celsius until golden brown, we've got a much better and much deeper mechanic to work with. Use the correct weapons from your arsenal to shoot down enemies. This provides both a skill to challenge, figuring out what weapons work for certain situations, and an objective, killing enemies. This can be applied to the notes in Beat Saber too. There's a clear objective, which is to hit the note, as well as several skills to challenge the player, which we'll get into in just a moment. If all you had to do was touch the block with your saber, this would become rather tedious and boring. Luckily, there are a few clear challenges right out the gate. They have to hit it at the right time, in the right direction, and with the right saber. Already, there's a lot of layers of depth to these little guys. Get the timing wrong? Well, that's a miss. Hit it in the wrong way or with the wrong saber? That's a bad cut. Both missing and getting bad cuts will deplete your health. If you do all of this right, congratulations, you're rewarded with some points. And this is where the mechanic gets even deeper. In order to make funny number go up, you have to challenge even more of your skills. A simple hit won't do a lot for you. You've got 3 more skills to try challenging if you're heading for a new high score. Your approach, your follow through, and your accuracy. You can be awarded up to 70 points for your approach, and it's all based on the angle you swing at the note with. If you started at a 100 degree or more angle, you'll get the full 70 points. Below 100 degrees though, the less your angle is, the less points you'll get. The follow through is another 30 points up for grabs, this time being calculated by how much you swing after you've hit the note. This one only goes to 60 degrees and works practically the same way as the approach. An additional 15 points can be awarded for your accuracy, that being how close you hit to the middle of the note. Hitting smack dab in the middle will reward you with the full 15 points, while hitting near the edges might give you only 2 or 3. This adds an incredible amount of depth compared to getting good cuts. With good cuts, you either get it or you don't. With this kind of scoring system, however, you can challenge yourself even further on songs you've already beaten, giving the game an almost infinite skill ceiling and in turn, almost infinite depth. You can always be more accurate or swing bigger, meaning you can always get a higher score and always have something to work towards. On top of this, you also have your combo meter. As your combo goes up, so does your score multiplier. So chaining together more of these good cuts means a higher and higher score, which adds yet another skill to challenge to get your score up. Okay, just to quickly recap, notes have one very simple and very clear objective: hit them. But they challenge several different skills. You have to time it correctly, cut in the right direction, cut with the right saber, and if you want a higher score you also have to have a wide approach, follow through with your swing, hit as accurately as you can, all while maintaining your combo for as long as you can. Whew. Okay, I think we're gonna need to give this information a second to digest, so in the meantime I would like to tell you about what I've been doing these past few months. Okay, it's been more than a few, but you get what I mean. I disappeared after my video on Iron Lung, and about 2 months later I made a now unlisted video saying I was coming back, and then I promptly did nothing for a further 6 months, and now we're here. But I didn't spend that time on nothing at all. In fact, I've been working rather hard on a new game, one that I am 110% sure I'm actually going to finish this time, called Ruby. That's spelled with an IE, by the way. To give you a quick idea, it's a puzzle game that centers around an AI simulation tasked with testing a proof of concept for immortality, but his objective mysteriously changes and he finds himself instead on a quest to delete System 32, and rather than death being an obstacle, it's now merely another tool in his arsenal. If this sounds interesting to you, you can keep up to date with the game through the Discord linked in the description, or by simply subscribing to keep up with the soon to come devlogs. The Discord has also recently opened a long overdue Q&A channel, so feel free to ask me anything you want in there and I might just use it for a video. To absolutely nobody's surprise, notes aren't the only thing in the game. There are 2 other key elements that are also present, those being bombs and walls. These mechanics aren't nearly as deep as the notes are, but they do work to enhance the depth of the notes when they're all put together. For example, introducing a few bombs in the mix means the player must be careful to avoid them while hitting the notes. In a similar sense, introducing a wall means the player has to move themselves physically, either by leaning or crouching, while notes are still being sent the player's way. And while these objects do occasionally appear on their own, it's not nearly as common as the notes appearing on their own, or nearly as fun, hence why the game doesn't take long to get back into that note slicing action. Along with the release of Beat Saber's Volume 5 soundtrack, the Beat Saber devs decided to include 2 new note types, those being chain notes and arcs. Arcs are best described as a sort of helper. They don't affect gameplay much at all, and for the most part are a visual indicator to help set up the player's swing in a way regular old notes can't really accomplish. In most cases, at least one end of the arc will be connected to a note. These don't add a whole lot of depth to the notes, it's not really providing a new objective or challenging the player in any way, but they are fun to hit. They make some patterns feel more natural and flowy, and I feel are worth mentioning. Chain notes, on the other hand, do introduce a new skill for the player to attempt to master, though as a result, the player doesn't really need to worry about the follow through with them. Chain notes are made up of several links. There can be lots of links or very few, they can span over a time frame, and they can even curve in different directions. The player must hit the opening link in the right direction and then follow through as to make sure the saber cuts through all the following links. Because these links can vary widely in how they spawn, they always present a test of the player's skill that the regular note types simply didn't offer before. So yeah, there's yet another skill being challenged. Now, hitting notes is good and all, but what really makes this work are the game's patterns. Each song is charted to be completely unique from one another, which is par of the course for rhythm games, but Beat Saber really excels here. The number of possible patterns in Beat Saber is absolutely insane, and many of them have community-given names. This, for example, is a piano string, one of my personal favorites, while this one is a hook. Even things like walls and bombs will get involved in pattern making. This right here is called a bomb reset, where bombs are used to force the player to move their sabers back out, setting them up for the next set of notes. And this here is called a groove wall, where notes are hit in time with the player dodging away. There's really a lot to work with here, but considering each swing is challenging a minimum 3 skills at once, and that's if you don't care about your score, that really shouldn't come as a surprise. Furthermore, you could consider hitting the notes in their pattern yet another skill for the player to master, and this one is ever changing. No map ever has the same set of patterns, meaning there's always a new map to challenge your skills. It just keeps on going. Beat Saber is a game which perfectly illustrates how a well-made mechanic can carry a game in its entirety. Beat Saber did well for itself for around 4 years with just notes, bombs, and walls, and that's all because of the depth in Beat Saber's mechanics. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean the more challenges you have, the better. If you just cram every challenge you can think of into one mechanic, it might not end up panning out too well. It's important to note that Beat Games carefully picked out these challenges because they worked well together and were easy to understand. Furthermore, these are all telegraphed to the player very well, so the player can see at a glance what the next move that they have to make is. So the next time you want to make a mechanic that's fun, deep, and got a lot of replay value to it, just make sure there's a clear goal and a good challenge or 7. Or was it 8? I lost count. And while Beat Saber is doing a great job at testing the skills of players from all over the world, I personally am struggling with a skill of my own, and that's writing outros. 8 months. 8 months and I'm still awful at it. Bye.